Welcome to the Outer Darkness Happy Hour podcast. We're John and Ashley.
This is not your typical Exmo Nevermo podcast.
We're here to share our stories, but we want to hear yours.
So grab a drink, a pull up a chair, and let's talk about life in the outer darkness.
Hi, welcome to the Outer Darkness Happy Hour podcast. I'm Ashley, and I'm a Nevermo, which means I've never been Mormon.
And I'm John, and I'm an Exmo, which means I was Mormon.
Thankfully, that's not true anymore.
Amen to that.
Today, for this week, our drink of the week, we decided just to do a simple glass of red wine because that was what we were drinking when we turned on the new Netflix documentary.
Trust me, a false prophet.
And let me tell you, that glass of wine turned into about 2 or 3 glasses of wine because that was a rough documentary to watch.
Yeah, we busted through that documentary in one night.
We did. We did all the episodes.
Yeah.
And probably most of you that watch us, you're probably affiliated with the church in some way or another. So I'm sure you saw the documentary a few years ago, the Keep Sweet.
Keep Sweet and
Pray
Obey.
and
Pray and
Obey.
Obey, one of those
Yeah.
other cult documentaries about polygamy.
And this one's pretty much directly related to that. It's in the same area, same little town.
Yeah.
And it's about a guy basically trying to step in and fill the shoes of Warren Jeffs. Because, you know, who wouldn't want to fill those shoes?
Yeah.
We don't want to give too many spoilers, but we thought it was interesting. When John and I were first dating, when I first moved to Utah, I think you took me to Costco. We went to Costco and I saw a large group of women. They seemed very sweet, lovely women, but they were all dressed in a way I'd never seen before. Just these long, billowy, high neck dresses, and their hair was all pulled back in the same style. And you explained to me how did you explain that to me when I asked you, what church do they belong to?
I pointed them out and I see those are
Yeah.
polygamists over there. They're all sister wives.
Oh, and that's right. And so for me, from living in Alaska, my only exposure to the sister wife idea was the show. I don't even remember what network it was on, but it was called Sister Wives. And they all dressed pretty normal. I'm not going to say they weren't crazy, but they all, from the outside looked pretty normal. And I'd never seen anybody dressed like in prairie clothes. That's what I thought. I thought they looked like they were, pioneers.
Yeah. What's funny is I actually went to Colorado City, Arizona, where it all takes place. Back in the late 90s, I worked for Intermountain Healthcare here in Utah, and I managed the southern region for Intermountain Healthcare, their home care division. And I was tasked to set up a remote office for Intermountain Healthcare's home care office in Colorado City, Arizona. So the nurses there, because they didn't want outside nurses
I imagine
visiting patients, right? And they wanted their own nurses. So, and there were a few polygamous nurses who worked for Intermountain Healthcare living in Colorado City, Utah, or Colorado City, Arizona. And I was tasked to go to meet a nurse there and set up a remote office, basically so they could go to that office and dial into the St. George office to download patient information. So being the IT guy I was at the time, I had to go to Colorado City, Arizona a number of times to help set that up. But the way it all started was I drive down to St. George, meet with the director there, and she's like, okay, this is how you get over to Colorado City, Arizona. When you get there, the first thing you do is find the only auto body shop as you get into town, show them your Intermountain Healthcare badge, and say, I'm John, Intermountain Healthcare. I'm here to meet Eden, was her name. That was my contact.
This sounds like the start to a scary movie, when
Yeah.
the one guy's like, okay, you just go down here and you do the turnpike and then you talk to George and George will tell you where to go. And
Yeah,
you just
that's what it felt like.
You
I'm
end
like,
up being
what am I
sacrificed
doing
under
now?
a full moon.
What am I doing?
It's like an episode of Supernatural.
I'm not writing down Eden.
Yeah.
Like the Garden of Eden?
Yeah.
Yes, Garden of Eden,
Oh my
John.
gosh, yeah.
So sure enough, I leave St. George and make the drive. It's like an hour and a half from St. George. And I get into town and I see the only auto body shop. I pull in and I go inside and all the men have this slicked down hair. And the boys. It's an auto body shop. And this is like August.
Okay,
So it's
yeah.
really, really, really hot outside. And they have their shirts buttoned up to the top, blue
Yeah.
shirts. And they're working on cars and stuff. And I show my badge. I do exactly what I was told to do. Hi, I'm John with Intermountain Healthcare. I'm here to meet Eden. I don't remember her last name. And he's like, okay, go outside. I'll call her. So I go outside and I'm I've got a company car, so I'm just kind of standing outside, kind of taking it all in. And I remember seeing 3 girls dressed like sister wives on like an ATV, all three of them piled together, and they
Oh
got
my
their
gosh,
they
yeah.
got their braids
Flying in
flying
the
in the
wind. on
wind, and they're going
ATV.
back and forth. And I had this weird thought, I'm like, oh, I should show them like my phone or something. Like, have you seen this before? Like, show them some technology. And so I was there for about a good 30 minutes, just waiting for someone to show up. And sure enough, this huge SUV shows up, tinted windows, and the window rolls down, and it's Eden. She goes, "Are you John with the Intermountain Healthcare?" I'm like, "Yes." She goes, "I'm Eden," and I could see all these kids in this
Oh my
SUV,
gosh.
just chock full
Yeah.
of kids in this. And she's like, "Okay, you need to follow me." And so I was going to follow her to like a little office within somewhere in Colorado City to set up. And I have my computers, I've got the phone line, I've got everything with me to set this up. Right? I got a printer, and so I'm following her through the neighborhood of Colorado City, and I noticed that there were no paved roads. It was all dirt roads, and we're going through a neighborhood, and none of the houses were finished. There's an add-on here, and there's painting over here, and there's ladders everywhere, and kind of like every single house is still under construction. And I was told that if they're considered under construction, they're not really meant to be lived in yet. They don't have to pay taxes. So it's one of their ways
yeah,
of getting
okay.
out of having to pay taxes, that if it's still under construction and it's not ready, then you don't have to pay taxes on it. That's what I was told.
I think people do that in Alaska too, though, because I swear to God, there's probably houses there still that weren't finished when I left and are still unfinished.
So it had kind of a rundown Stephen King feel to it. I'm driving through there, and I noticed there was a car behind me with two guys following me. So there were two gentlemen in a car following me, kind of in a white, looked like a cop car. I don't think it was a police car though. So they were behind me also. And I followed Eden to this kind of a single level Bates Motel looking building.
Yeah.
And it looked like an old motel. And so I'm getting all my stuff in, I'm hauling all my computer gear into this little office space, if you want to call it that. It looks like an old motel room or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm setting up the computer and the monitor and the printer and got the phone line, and I'm just praying, like, please let everything work. I don't want to be here for much longer. And I was there all day long, like just trying to fix this computer problems, trying to get this dial-up set up to dial into St. George. And so there's a lot of times where I'm rebooting the computer, right? So there's some downtime, and Eden's kind of sitting there with, she's got a bunch of kids running around, and I'm like, I said something stupid, right? I'm like, "So, are you from around here?"
Did you mean to say that?
I
or
did.
it
It was awkward silence, and I had to say something. Like, "So, are you from around here?" Like, "Yes."
Do you think in general she was probably uncomfortable being alone with a man? Like, do they not have to have chaperones? I mean,
Dude, there was a bunch of
another man
kids
inside?
with her, a bunch of toddlers.
Okay.
She was holding on to a toddler, and a bunch of her daughters
Yeah.
and sons were running all over the place. So it wasn't uncomfortable in that sense, but
Okay.
there was some awkward moments where we were like staring at the computer monitor, waiting for it to boot
Yeah.
up, and it's like, "Oh, so are you from around here?" She's like, "Yes." The name like
Multiple
Eden, right?
generations, yeah.
Yeah, so I was, I dialed up, and I had done all this work to try and get this computer system to boot up right. And there were a lot of issues. I had to call the St. George office, and there's a lot of troubleshooting going on back and forth. And I just wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. And so when I finally left, those two guys in the car were still there. And they followed me all the way out.
Just
to the
escorted
city
you out,
line.
basically,
Pretty
to make
much,
sure you
they were
left,
behind me.
yeah.
And I was thinking, as I was driving through that neighborhood, it's like, if I accidentally ran over a kid, they'd just bury me somewhere.
Yeah.
They'd bury me in the car.
Yeah,
right?
they would. John who?
But since then, I went back a number of times to did the same thing. I'd go to the auto body shop. I'm John, here to meet Eden. Eden would show up with all her kids, and they'd follow me back into the little single Bates
For
Motel
lack of a
office.
better word, she was the escort.
She was the escort, but she was a nurse. She had an Intermountain Healthcare badge also,
okay.
so she was considered a coworker of mine. So she would guide me in back into the office
So was
to
that
do
normal
troubleshooting.
though? For a woman to have a job? I thought mostly they could not, or they needed a healthcare person.
They needed nurses out there, right? Home health nurses, right? And they don't
Okay.
want nurses that were not polygamous coming from out of town to administer to to
that's
their
true.
patients. So they
Okay.
so their home health nurses were all polygamous women who lived there also.
Okay, so I guess I wrongly
need some
assumed the
wine after
women
that
weren't
story.
allowed to work or have jobs, but I do remember in the documentary that it seemed like the women were the ones doing all the work. They would go work and clean hotels, apartments, stores. Like they were the working force bringing money home to
Yeah.
the one profit while he sat at home. Yeah.
First thing I noticed was that god awful white leather jacket.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're talking about we put his name down. Bateman.
Sam Bateman.
Yeah, that was
the wannabe
awful.
prophet.
He looked like, excuse the terminology, but he looked like Fat Elvis. Like the jacket was way too small. I don't know if anybody's ever watched the old Chris Farley skit on SNL where he puts on the jacket. He's all fat man, little jacket, and he like rips it. That's what that guy looked like. And I wouldn't have thought that if he wasn't also such a disgusting human being. I wouldn't have had any negative thoughts about him either way. You'd think he's kind of quirky.
Yeah.
But anything that involves children is really hard to watch. But in a way, like when we watch documentaries like that, true crime documentaries, things where horrific things happen, it's you owe it to the victims to watch so their story is told.
Yeah.
Because if those stories don't get out, then you don't know stuff like that's happening. And there's got to be a way to stop it. There's got to be a quicker way to stop it. In this documentary, the woman, her and her husband were doing it. They lived there for two plus years. Christine Marie or Christine
In Tolga, yeah.
Yeah. And they knew right away something awful was going on, and they contact the local authorities. They tell them what's happening, and they just keep getting told, you need to get more, and they did end up getting some proof that was pretty damning and horrific, and they let the authorities know, and they say that's not enough. And one of the younger women, I guess, not a girl, she was an adult, was visiting the couple doing the documentary. She was at their house because they kind of been accepted into the community. And she just said, she goes, I don't understand why a girl has to be ruined before she can be saved or helped. It was something like that. And I don't know, we had to pause it after that because it hit so hard. It's like, why do these little girls and these young women have to be destroyed? And we're not talking in the purity sense, ruined. It's their spirit, their soul, everything they feel about themselves just has to be completely destroyed before law enforcement can step in. And if local law enforcement doesn't step in, then the the FBI doesn't find out, because it's not being reported to them. And there were just so many failures in that documentary where local law enforcement had the chance to do anything, and they didn't.
The Hilldale Police Department, what an absolute failure that was. My jaw dropped when he said something to the effect of, well, I just don't want to upset the locals, and because there's so many, I think he used the word gentle heart.
He said he couldn't watch it more.
Anymore because, there's gentle hearts involved. It's like, what the fuck are you? Why are you being a cop then?
Whose gentle heart are you talking about? The victims? Because go protect them.
So,
if you're talking about your own gentle heart, then maybe you shouldn't be in law enforcement because you need to be able to see that difficult stuff. So it enrages you. So you take action to help them. Yeah,
that's a Mormon term, by the way, gentle heart. I haven't heard that since I was Mormon. Oh, the children and their gentle hearts. That's what it reminded me of.
You know what? If you really feel like the children have gentle hearts, do more to protect them from the predators that are under your own roof, Stop putting them in positions of power.
Yeah.
And following scripture that tells these girls and these women, and I'm sure plenty of boys have been harmed as well, that they need to look to these people like they're the mouthpiece of God. They're just a man with a swinging dick. They're not prophets. They're given a job. And the title of that job is prophet, but it's not spiritual or important. And I don't care if that enrages people. It's really stupid that these men are put in these positions where they are just given free rein to harm children, their own children, other people's children, their wives. Nothing gets me more worked up than stuff like that.
I mean, how narcissistic do you have to be to call up the documentary team to meet them out in the desert somewhere so he can be filmed riding his motorcycle or hiking or
jumping on
rocks.
Literally, what a 4-year-old does.
Watch this. Hey, come over here. Watch me do this now. What do you think of that? And that poor Tolga. Yeah, that's awesome. Way to go. Just you can tell he's bullshitting him.
What was his name?
Tolga.
Yeah,
the husband?
he had to just humor humor
Oh
this
my
person
gosh,
that he
how did you
found.
learn to
Yeah.
act like that? How did you do it? I don't know.
Yeah. It is. It's like watching when your 4-year-old says, Mom, record me jumping. And they jump and they get like, 1/4 inch off the ground. You're like, oh my gosh, that's the best jump ever. That's how that guy needed to be coddled. There's scenes where he's sitting on his couch surrounded by these girls. And they're just caressing him and touching him
Yeah.
and preening him and just, worshiping him because that's how they were raised to treat their husband. It's just sickening. It's sickening that religion has been given so much power.
Watching him reminded me of what Joseph Smith was probably really like.
Oh, yeah.
He resembled Joseph Smith to a T.
Yeah, he's not like the oil paintings,
Yeah.
I'm sure he was just a sleazy derp that couldn't, fool too many women his age or older, so he went after young girls.
Yeah. He saw an opportunity. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's no Warren Jeff. Maybe I can get these women to believe that he speaks through me and I'm now the next prophet. And I can't believe that some of them...
Well, he tells them that Warren Jeff is dead.
Oh, that's right.
And
There's a
now his
mannequin that-
spirit is speaking to him and
That's
wants
right.
him to, to take care of this flock, govern these people. And because these people have no contact with the outside world, they believe him. And now that it's over and this guy is in, he's in prison, and sorry if that's a spoiler, but he still has his older wives that still think he's a prophet.
Yeah.
Luckily, a lot of the the minors and stuff they got taken away. They're fine as they can be, and there's one in particular that, I don't know, we really were rooting for her because you could just see this glossed over kind of, I don't know, just brainwashed look on her face because she didn't know any better. And now she's out of it. She's out of the religion and working on healing, and she's on TikTok, and she just looks like
Yeah.
a whole new person. Whole new, like, life had been put back into her, and she had to go through something horrific first. But what is her name?
Gnomes? Is it
Gnomes?
Gnomes?
They call her Gnomes.
They call her
Yeah,
Gnomes.
that's her nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's on TikTok now. We see her
We
stuff.
watched this when it first came out. It's been a couple of weeks, so we've had to take some time to decompress
Digest it a little bit.
from everything from what we
Yeah.
watched. It was pretty brutal to watch it.
Yeah, it was. It just kind of puts a focus. A lot of our stuff is lighthearted, and we joke, and John jokes about the church because he was in it for so long. And
Yeah.
honestly, that's how you deal with things that have been traumatic. You make humor,
Yeah.
make jokes, and you get over it. But when you see other ways that people were affected or have been affected or still being affected by a dominant religion in an area, it's difficult not to get angry and get sarcastic and just want to dig in and tear apart the whole system, especially for me as a woman. It's infuriating to see that so many smart, intelligent, beautiful women out there are, without knowing it, held captive by their religion. Now, you can love God. I'm not an atheist. I believe in a higher power. You can love God, but I don't believe that human beings, men or women, have the right to say they know what God is thinking and what he wants and how he wants us to dress and how he wants us to behave. Because if those are things, if I wear a top that shows my cleavage, which I usually do, if that keeps me from getting into heaven after I've
2 thumbs up.
been a good person and genuinely love and care about people, then that's no heaven I want to be a part of. And I don't think it's like that.
Yeah.
I really don't. I guess that's just my opinion, but it's why I won't be a part of any religion. They're all man-made. Like I told you, I've always said this. My dad told me when I was a little kid in conversation, religion was created to control women and poor people. And there has been nothing in my life that's ever pointed to anything different.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
I'd like to hear what Mormons think about that documentary. For those that would even watch it, I know most of my Mormon friends won't even go near those documentaries.
Yeah.
Because they considered anti-Mormon and probably makes them feel uncomfortable. But
Yeah, I get that.
I get that they're trying to distance themselves from the FLDS, the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saint Church. However, they're still following a prophet. to this day. They have their own prophet. They have the prophet right now that
Yeah.
they're following. And I guarantee you that if the prophet came out and said, okay, you can no longer wear the color blue, no fucking reason behind it, they would do it. So they are just as programmed, maybe on a different level, than those poor women are in Colorado City. So
They're
they still
all-
follow
yeah,
a man. They
they're-
still follow a dude
Yeah.
with a pair of testicles.
They do.
When it comes down to it, another dude is running the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of my favorite ways to think about it is like all these different branches of religion and all these different branches of the Mormon religion. They're just branches on the same fucked up tree.
Yeah.
And you don't get rid. You know, when a tree gets infested, sometimes you just gotta cut it down and burn the stump. And I think that would make the yard that is our world a hell of a lot healthier if we just got rid of that big infected nasty tree.
Yeah.
Because sure, it gives us shade sometimes, but other than that, it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess we have to put explicit on this one.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it was definitely adult content, though, right?
Yeah.
We had to watch it with the kids asleep and stuff. It was that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's uncomfortable, but you know, like I said, things like that should be uncomfortable. You can't get desensitized to the atrocities going on in the world. It's like not wanting to turn on the news because you don't want to see what's going on, but you can't ignore it either.
Yeah.
So. But we thought we should just do a little episode and talk about that documentary because it's super relevant to where we live and people who are still in our lives.
Yeah.
And if you're a parent, it really affects you. So I recommend pouring a nice glass of red wine if you're going to watch it. If you have never watched Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, I would suggest watching that first and then watching this one so you can really see how, you know, this guy in the new documentary, the Trust Me documentary, he can be comical. You know, we laughed at him at first.
Yeah, we were
And
getting a good laugh at this guy.
We found out what he was doing to his child brides and
Yeah.
what he was making them do. And there's nothing funny about it. He may look ridiculous. He may be this uncoordinated, attention-seeking, sociopathic narcissist, but there's nothing funny about what happened, nothing lighthearted. So yeah, pour yourself a glass of red wine, get angry, and then talk about it because maybe the right person will see it and decide to change their lives.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have to say about
Oh,
that.
I'm so glad I'm out of that fucking church.
Me too.
You have no idea how happy I am. I wake up so happy on Sundays. I don't have to worry about that shit anymore. I don't have to defend it anymore. I don't have to go through that whole cognitive dissonance phase that I went through when I would defend the church. And it's just all gone now. It's just so much better for me. I just have so much more clarity in my life than not having to worry about that shit and defend it. I spent most of my life defending the church. It's just, I'm so much happier now that I'm absolutely out. I've got my names off the record of the church, everything. None of it has ever happened, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So watching these documentaries, it really kind of chaps my hide and gets me kind of mad. And it's hard to sleep that night because I get so mad at the shit that I believed. And at one point I was defending Joseph Smith and, he didn't really marry 14-year-olds. Oh, bullshit. Yes, he did. He married 14-year-olds.
He did marry 14-year-olds.
He was out. Yeah, he was abusing children.
I'm sure he did far worse.
That's the bottom
yeah.
line. He was fucking abusing children. That's it. And you talk to Mormons now, and they will dance around it. They'll tiptoe around it. They have all these ways of trying to get around that topic. But that's when it comes down to he was abusing children. He was sending men off the missions and going to the wives' house to pick up on it, basically.
Here's the thing. This is
It
why
was all a ploy for sex.
This is why
SEX.
This is why. Okay.
Now I'm all
I
pissed.
had a. You're okay. I released. We did a TikTok video the other day, and at the beginning I asked a question, and it was political, and we don't have to get into the politics side of it, but I said, how do Mormons and Christians feel about it? And somebody got really upset because they said, Mormons are Christians.
We're Christians. I used to say that.
But here's the thing, though I'm not religious, if Christ was real, he's a figure worth following. He helped people. Joseph Smith was a fucking pedophile. He is not worthy of worship and following. He's a guy that had a great idea for a fiction series and turned it into a religion.
I can have sex with women if I do this.
Yes, or have wealth and power amongst his peers. I mean, he's probably like the derpy dude in the documentary. He wanted someone to watch him jump on rocks. So he came up with a story, and, you know, what the church has turned into, I've met some of the most loveliest, like kindest people who are Mormon, right? They're great people. And I think they shut off that part of their brain that acknowledges what that religion was built on.
Yeah.
And who built it. And I understand, you know, they were raised in it, but at some point you need to open your eyes and live your life like it is your only life that you have, because it probably is. And living rules to get into a place that you don't even know exists is just
Exhausting.
It's a waste of the 75 years, if you're lucky, that we get on this earth. And it's a waste to raise your children thinking they have to be a certain way to please a religion, when all they have to do is be a good person. Just be a good person for the sole purpose of, this is your only life, be a good person, you know? And you don't have to give 10 to 15% of your money, especially nowadays when people are struggling to go to the grocery store and feed their kids because the prices of everything are through the roof.
Pay your tithing first.
Pay tithing. I mean,
Programming is real.
we've seen that.
Yeah.
We've seen that where people are like tithing first. And I don't care what religion it is. No religion should, in good conscience, tell a family they need to pay the church before feeding their children. Because if you pay the church, good things will happen for you. You know how many people have died poor and of starvation while still giving money to a church? Oh, yeah. You know.
And this is why I married an Evermo.
Sorry. I won't be as angry anymore. Cheers. So that's
Cheers
it.
to the outer darkness.
Cheers to the outer darkness.